Well, good afternoon, y'all. Well, good morning, y'all. It's kind of late tonight. Just wanted to go over some stuff that has been in the news. I don't know. My light is not too good. But, what does it say? Police arrest 90s movie star Teresa Randall. What did she do? Well, I tell you, when these celebrities fall, man, that's one good thing that we don't have to worry about as regular people. Police arrested 90s actress Teresa Randall for felony assault. Randall allegedly fled before police arrived at the scene. Police arrived another call 2 days later after domestic issue. Randall starred in Bad Boys, Space Jam, Beverly Hills Cop 3. Wow. They arrested her for felony assault. That's crazy. And it says she's in the LA area. That's TMZ reporting that. Boy, I tell you, I think they said this was one that got on drugs real bad, real hard drugs. And she was considered one of the most beautiful black actresses back in the 90s. And the most recent film, footage that they had of her, she was in a wheelchair, and she looked really bad. But I'm telling you, boy, that Hollywood world, it'll chew you up and spit you out. But later on that, we're gonna worry about more important things. Let's see. What is in the news? What are we talking about? Okay, it says let me see. The FAA issued a safety alert on Boeing 737 MAX air and next generation aircrafts. Now they're saying that these airplanes are having landing issues, safety landing issues, because there are issues with faulty rudder pedals. It says the alert follows a February incident involving a United Airlines 737 MAX 8. It says the problem stems from defective rudder rollout guidance actuators supplied by Collins Aerospace, affecting over 350 aircraft since 2017. It says airlines worldwide are now urged to inspect their fleets and suspend certain operations, while additional pilot training has been mandated to address potential risk. Swift action is needed to ensure passenger safety. So they're saying that this is not just a minor issue, this is a major problem, and it's affecting the safe landing of those aircraft. So sometimes it's best to ask, what type of plane am I boarding, and ask them about details about the aircraft, and ask them if it's a Boeing plane, because it seems like Boeing has been having all kind of problems with their aircraft. So be careful in your travels out there, y'all, if y'all are flying. So be diligent in your own safety. So ask them about, is this a Boeing 737 MAX or next generation aircraft? Has it been recalled? So, what else is going on? It said the Dominican Republic has escalated its mass deportation efforts as gang violence worsens in Haiti. Because see, the more that it gets worse, or the worse that it gets in Haiti, more people will be coming over to the neighboring countries like Cuba, Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, and America. So there's more and more people trying to get out of there because it's just being overrun by gangs and violence. And so that's why the Dominican Republic had to do what they had to do. And it says they have so far this week deported nearly 11,000 Haitians, and said they pledged to move or repatriate or send back or deport 10,000 Haitians a week. And they're also saying that because of the influx of people coming over to their island, the Dominican Republic has seen a spike in crimes and gang violence, and it has overwhelmed their schools, clinics, and hospitals. So the Dominican Republic has more sense than America does. They're trying to maintain control over their immigration issues until it gets out of control like it has here. What else? It says Hurricane Milton, we know it slammed into Florida's west coast as a Category 3. But before it made landfall, it was preceded by a tornado. A tornado came, or multiple tornadoes, because it said the state of Florida had like 132 to 150 tornado alerts right before Milton made landfall as a Category 3. But they said that tornado caused multiple fatalities in Southwest Florida. And they're still assessing the damage. I haven't checked the latest reports to see just how much damage and destruction did Milton cause, because it was preceded by a series of tornadoes, which they said is the most unusual thing that they have seen. You know, this is just a major, this was just a weird weather phenomenon that happened. All those tornadoes preceded the hurricane that, you know, fell on Florida. Last days, y'all, I mean, that weather is really strange. Remember I told y'all about the Sahara Desert flooding? Antarctica is melting. Plants are growing in Antarctica, which is the coldest place on Earth. And it was another thing that happened that was strange. Oh, the weird bird activity flying in the air in Japan before the earthquake. But weird. What else is happening? It says the United States has urged its ally Israel. Biden has spoke to Benjamin Netanyahu and has made it plain that he does not want Israel to destroy Lebanon like it did Gaza, and said Biden wants Netanyahu to inflict minimal harm and try to not hurt civilians in its attacks against Lebanon and Hezbollah in Lebanon. So also it says that Biden has warned Netanyahu not to attack Iran's oil refineries or nuclear plants, but that's not Biden's call. Biden is not Netanyahu's boss. Biden does not tell this man how to fight his war in his country. That's the problem with America, is that they try to control other cultures, other countries, just other people, just everywhere. They just try to rule the world. And that's why a lot of countries despise America. Now this man is over there trying to eliminate his enemies and eliminate the threat from his people. And so Biden is trying to tell him to just kind of slap box with, trying to tell Israel how to slap box with Iran, when Israel wants to blow Iran into oblivion, pretty much. They know they're over there testing nuclear bombs, and so they're trying to get rid of the threat once and for all and return their Israeli citizens back to the northern region, back to their homes. And they said as many as 70,000 people have been displaced from their homes. So Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant have met with their war cabinets. They are on a mission, and they're going to get rid of Hezbollah, and they're going to deal with Iran on their own terms. And after Yom Kippur, which is, I expect them to start hitting Iran Friday. And they've already threatened that Netanyahu has already pretty much gave Lebanon and Iran a heads up that Lebanon is going to be destroyed like Gaza if Hezbollah keeps using its citizens as human shields and hiding weapons of mass destruction in their homes. And he also warned Iran that they are going to suffer. Gallant already made the announcement. They are going to suffer an attack that is going to be precise and lethal. And that it's going to be such an attack that will be unheard of, and they are not going to know what hit them and how. So, and I do believe that's going to happen because they're under supernatural military strength in God. That they are fighting this is a supernatural warfare strategy. And so we're going to witness something that we have never seen in human history, in military history, over the next probably 3 or 4 days after Yom Kippur is over. Let me see, what else is going on? But yeah, Biden is over there trying to tell Netanyahu how to fight his war. That's not how it goes. Not with God, it ain't. America don't control God. It says, what else was going on? It says the number of Haitians that are facing acute hunger. It said nearly half of the country in Haiti, the number of Haitians facing acute food insecurity has now reached half of the country's population. It is dealing with political instability and the ongoing fallout from a surge of gang violence. The gang has pretty much overthrown the government down in Haiti. They just had a mass casualty shooting down there. Said the gang just opened fire on a small town in Haiti and killed 70 people, including women and children. And because of all the chaos and lawlessness going on down there, it says now the half of the country is going hungry. And that's the reason why the Dominican Republic is trying to prevent Haitians from coming over to their country, because they cannot handle, a bunch of starving Haitians crossing into their borders and, coming into their country, because they don't have enough to feed all those people. America doesn't either, but I guess something has got to be done to help these people. But see, anytime you're a godless country, things like this is going to happen. God is going to let that country be destroyed because they don't have Jesus down there. They practice witchcraft. They practice hoodoo, voodoo, and Santeria down in Haiti mainly. There might be a small population of Christians down there, but for the most part, that country is a pagan country. So that's the reason why a lot of those people, they're trying to leave Haiti, because they're desperate. It's just too much. It's war, crime, hunger, all kind of stuff is going on down there, and I don't see it being eradicated anytime soon. It's overrun by gangs. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That gang forced the Prime Minister to resign. But the way things got so bad for Haiti is because France forced Haiti to pay them money, because it was they had a war, and they defeated the French. The Haitians defeated the French and won its independence in 1804, and France wanted revenge. So in 1825, they threatened the new country full of free slaves. So Haiti was a country full of free slaves, and they threatened the country and they threatened Haiti and demanded 150 million francs to allow Haiti to remain free. And so they had no choice but to take the deal, and they've spent 122 years paying the French debt. And in today's terms, that debt has amounted to anywhere between 150 to 200 billion dollars. So that's why that country is in the condition that it's in. Yeah. So what else? There's also, speaking of France and French, there's also massive protests going on the island of Martinique, which is a predominantly black island, due to the rising cost of living, rising inflation, and poverty of that country. It has a high unemployment rate, and the people are just really suffering down there, to the point that they have now started rioting. And they said they've had violent clashes with police that resulted in 6 police officers being injured by gunfire. And so they had to impose a curfew on the island and ban having protests and demonstrations. So there's civil unrest down there on the island of Martinique in the French Caribbean. And it's going to be, it's happening over in the UK. because of the same reasons, and because of the migrant crisis, and because of the people over in the UK are struggling, especially people on fixed incomes and seniors and low income people. They're really struggling to the point that they have took it to the streets and they started rioting out there in the UK. Then that's going to start happening in America in a minute. It's going to happen here because it's getting to the point now that, especially with this whole flood thing, and a lot of these people have lost everything they've had, and they're mad because the Republican right-wing MAGA people are spreading propaganda that migrants are getting more support than they are. This stuff is going to come to a head over here in the UK, and there's going to be civil unrest here soon, very soon, especially with this whole election coming up in about, what, 3 weeks? So yeah. What else? So that's over in Martinique. Riots are happening because of the rising cost of living over there. Also in Sudan, a civil war has been raging over in Sudan for over a year now, and the people are caught in the middle of these two rival forces. It's the military junta, and then on the other side is a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, which is they call it RSF. And so the people are starving as a result of this civil war that's been going on in Sudan. It says 18 million Sudanese people are facing acute hunger. It says 5 million are on the brink of starvation. So it says that, and this is not American Trump MAGA people, and this is not them saying that. This is a world wide media outlet saying that these people have now, they're so hungry that they have resorted to eating cats. It says that others have been boiling leaves and drinking broth, and they said that some are even digging up soil and eating that to survive. They're eating soil to survive because they're starving over in Sudan. It says over the next few months could be even worse now that Sudan's lean period between harvests has begun. And that's not the only African country that's starving to death. Like I reported a few weeks ago that I think with Namibia and somewhere else, they are actually having to cull some of their wildlife, like kill elephants and different wild animals in order to provide meat to feed their starving citizens. That's how bad the famine is over in some of those African countries. And if you look at a list of all the world's poorest countries, most of them down at the bottom are African, predominantly black countries. So that should tell you something about the condition of the world and the way the world treats people with darker skin. They go over there and rob the countries of the resources, but those countries are, the people are starving. That's just the way it is. But the last shall be first and the first shall be last. When Jesus comes back, that's all I got to say. That's what the Bible says. On another story, it says emergency personnel had to form a search and rescue team over here in Colorado to rescue a group of tourists who decided that they wanted to go and tour a gold mine and got trapped 1,000 feet underground after an elevator malfunctioned. It said one person died. They said all these people came from out of state to do this too. So they said one person died and 11 people were trapped underground. They had to send them down pizza and stuff to eat, to keep them alive. And eventually, after 6 hours, they rescued the people. There was 11 of them, and it was 12. It was a group of 12. One person died, and 11 of them were trapped down there. And they said many of them were injured, but they still made it out alive, fortunately. And this was at the Molly Kaplan mine in Cripple Creek, Colorado. So he said they're supposed to do inspections on those elevators every day, but I guess they didn't inspect it well enough to see just what went wrong. Speaking of where we going somewhere where you ain't supposed to be, it says a search and rescue team had to recover the remains of a John Hopkins, a Seattle resident who went missing in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest almost 2 years ago. So they just found him after 2 years. He said he went missing in November 2022. They discovered his rental car and his belongings, but they didn't find his body. They conducted like 2 different searches and they didn't find his body, and they just found it this year, a few days ago. So they said he was 69 years old. He was quite the outdoorsman, says Skamania County Sheriff Summer Shire. And it says, yeah, they found his remains, and they're just, they think they almost know it's him, but they're waiting on DNA results to come back to confirm his identity. And this news comes a few days after a separate incident in which the sheriff's office reported that a bear hunter discovered what appeared to be a human skull near the Sawtooth Berry Fields in the Gifford Pinchot National Park forest. In that same area, in that same forest, they found a human skull, a bear hunter. Now what is he doing hunting bears in the forest? He gonna be the next one they find. He gonna be the next remains they find, or the next skull they find. He out there hunting bears. So these people ain't got no business being in those wild animals' habitat. But anyway, they found a hiker. I mean, this was a hiker. They believe this is another hiker in the area of the Big Lava Bed area of the Gifford Pinchot National Forest in late August. It was a skull, and we believe that's Christopher Zeitwitz, Shire said. So he went missing in 2013. So he's been missing 11 years, and they finally found him after conducting many searches. They haven't positively identified his remains, and it's been taken to the medical examiner's office for identification. And they said that they are looking for 12 other people who have went missing in that forest. I guess they just turn up whenever another idiot goes out there, you know, exploring and trying to take pictures of wild animals and going out there, and they wind up missing. So I don't know what it's going to take for these people to learn. So in another situation, let's just move away from them, because these people just, I don't know what to say. Why are you playing with your life? 9 times out of 10, those people got eaten by wild animals, probably out there trying to approach these animals to take pictures and pet them, or trying to approach like the babies of the animals, the cubs or something. And you know what happens when they try to approach cubs and babies? Those mothers snap and lose it and end up mauling it to death, or, you know, they just don't have no business out there. So that's probably what happened to a lot of those. They were probably eaten alive by wild animals. So, yeah. What else?
A lot to get to. I want to start with that breaking news out of Teller County tonight. The deadly incident at a Colorado gold mine that is now a tourist attraction. Those 12 people trapped more than 1,000 feet below the surface have been rescued tonight, but authorities confirming one person died after what they call an equipment malfunction. That's right. And we also have some brand new video of that mine showing the conditions the people were dealing with at the time. Those 12 visitors trapped right here, down here for hours. Fox 31's Nate Belt is live at Molly Kathleen Mine tonight with brand new information about this rescue.
Yeah, guys, we just got that good news about an hour ago from the Teller County Sheriff telling us that all of the 12 people who were trapped for 6 hours, 1,000 feet underground, were rescued. They were brought up safely. He says none of those 12 people were injured. Now, Teller County Sheriff Jason Mikesell says they were all brought up via the elevator system safely and 4 at a time. Now, that he says that was the plan all along, despite the initial malfunction. That's where they said the problem was with the elevator. Now, that initial malfunction is what he says caused the one person to be killed. He says they were able to recover that person's body from the mine. Now, each of the 12 people that were trapped all day, they were adults, and they were not told the full extent of the incident so that they wouldn't be scared. The sheriff sheriff says they were quite shocked to learn about everything once they got up to the surface. And the sheriff says bringing them back here was a collaborative effort that couldn't have been done by any one agency alone.
Here's the thing in Colorado, we train every day to make those decisions on first responders and safety and getting people to safety. And you saw it work. That's what I saw today. How often do you have a senator, you have the state of Colorado here, you've got commissioners here, they did an emergency declaration. We did everything that we possibly could to make sure they were safe.
The sheriff tells us this is the end of the season for the mine as well, which of course, as you heard, takes tourists down in there. It's this coming weekend was set to be the last day of operation for the year. Now the sheriff also tells us that each of the 12 individuals that were rescued, they were given hotels here in Cripple Creek for the night to help them recover a little bit easier. Reporting live from Cripple Creek, Nate Belt, Fox 31.
It's heavily wooded.
In the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, search and rescue crews locating human remains on Saturday. They were found near the McClellan Meadows Snow Park, and authorities believe they belong to 69-year-old John Hopkins from the Seattle area. Skamania County Sheriff Summer Shire has been involved since he went missing in 2022.
You do get tied to these cases, especially trying to put yourself in a family's position to where you can't even imagine not knowing where your father is or your loved ones.
Hopkins was an avid hiker and outdoorsman. Shire said his death is still a mystery.
That's still under investigation to what his purpose was in the location he was and his manner and cause of death.
In the last 2 months, search and rescue crews have found human remains of 2 weather bodies. In early September, a bear hunter found human remains near the Sawtooth Berry Fields.
We don't know who that is at this time.
And in August, a hiker locating human remains near the Big Lava Beds.
We believe that's Christopher Zidowitz.
Zidowitz went missing in 2013 when he got separated from his friend during a hike. Crews spent days searching the area, but ultimately calling it off as the weather worsened. All 3 findings likely bringing some closure to missing person cases that are years old.
So being able to bring closure to a family and bringing somebody home, even if it's only a portion of them, I can't imagine what kind of relief and closure that they are able to experience.
Sheriff's Office says they have a list of about 12 more missing person cases here in the county tied to the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. They say that list goes back to the mid-1980s. Back to you.
Yeah, which means there are lots of families still hoping for answers. Devin Haskins in Steveston tonight. Thank you.
Now, the number of Haitians facing acute hunger has now reached half the population. The country is dealing with political instability and the ongoing fallout from a surge in gang violence early this year. More than 5 million people are struggling to feed themselves and their families.
The gangs forced us out. I lost my parents, my mother and father. The gangs burned them alive in the house, and now we can't go back. We're here in this camp.
They've lost their ability to make money. So we see very many people who are living in sites for displaced people within the capital who are in a situation which is considered to be the most severe situation in terms of food insecurity. It's level 5, a catastrophic level of food insecurity.
Well, despite the hunger crisis and gang violence in Haiti, authorities in neighboring Dominican Republic are planning to deport up to 10,000 undocumented Haitian migrants each week. New detention centers have been built to process deportees in several eastern provinces. The Dominican Republic has already deported more than 70,000 Haitians this year. Let's take a wider look at the crisis unfolding in Haiti. Nearly 5.5 million people face chronic hunger, making Haitians one of the poorest proportions of acutely food insecure people in any crisis worldwide. Well, out of these, 2 million are facing emergency levels of hunger, and at least 6,000 now live in temporary shelters after fleeing their homes. Violent attacks and fighting linked to gangs are on the rise, with the number of internally displaced Haitians nearly doubling to more than 700,000 in the past 6 months. More than half of them are children. Let's bring in Etienne Cotepalouk. He's the editor-in-chief of Haiti Weekly and joins us live from the capital, Port-au-Prince. Etienne, so this latest report suggests nearly half of all Haitians are struggling to feed themselves and their families. How surprised are you by the numbers? Because Haiti isn't a country that's ever faced a hunger crisis like this.
No, it's something we have never seen for at least that long of a period. It's been now 3 years since the beginning of the road closing around the capital. It's difficult to get in and out of the capital, so the whole economy has been stalling for the last 3 years. In the last months, there was 30% of inflation, so the cost of everything is really augmenting everywhere in all different goods. The people working to make the goods, to make the fruits, the vegetables, it is a tropical country outside of Port-au-Prince, can't bring the foods inside of Port-au-Prince, so their stocks are so some of them are getting too old to ship, so they have to sell it for a lesser price where they grew it. So it's really a difficult situation. The whole economy has stopped. There's no investment, there's no construction building anywhere, so everybody's waiting to see how it's going to evolve and how the security is going to be. They're going to find a solution for the security.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Etienne, what's the situation in the capital, Port-au-Prince, where you are? Because presumably, as you say, there are very little jobs, no jobs. People have very little money, and inflation is making the hunger crisis worse.
Exactly, and here the people are trying to survive. Here in Port-au-Prince, the people are trying to survive. They're taking the street. The schools are reopening this week. They're reopening late because of the situation last year that had the school ended really late. But there's really no big activities like they used to be. The pressure is now a bit more on the other side. The neighborhoods that are controlled by the different criminal groups, because the police got new armed vehicles last month that really helped the response, but there still has not been any neighborhood that was took over by the police. So we'll see how it's going to evolve, but for now there's not big changes around here. We're waiting to have some more troops in the next few months for international troops that's supposed to come here and help the local police.
Yeah, and Etienne, and the Dominican Republic has just announced this immediate plan to deport up to 10,000 Haitian migrants a week. What impact is that likely to have then on the existing hunger crisis in the country?
It's a question on everyone's mind right now because the news just went out. The announcement went out from the president of the Dominican Republic. It's more than double what they used to do last year. And so there still have been deportation from the Dominican Republic last year and the year before that was really higher than the years prior. Now it's announced to be bigger than ever. I don't know. We don't know how it's going to end out. What's going to be the impact? How are they going to be welcomed here in Haiti? As we said, the situation is already really dire. So we still don't know how it's going to be impacted on the daily lives here.
Etienne, just a quick final thought to you. I mean, so do you ever see an end to this crisis in Haiti? I mean, as you've been telling us, gang violence on the rise, 700,000 people internally displaced, the economy's in ruins, and the Dominican Republic, is kicking out thousands of Haitians. What's the future for Haiti? Just very quickly.
It's a good question. Nobody knows, and that's really what's difficult here because everybody is looking at the country, don't know where it's going to go at. There's corruption now in the higher levels of politics here. Accusations still today that got out. So we're still waiting to see how it's going to end out all this crisis, because we don't know where it's going to end.
Etienne Cote-Palouk, really good to get your thoughts and your analysis, Etienne. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
The message from the Dominican Republic is clear. Haitians fleeing the violence at home should not seek refuge with their more prosperous neighbor. The two countries share the island of Hispaniola, but relations have long been hostile. And this week, the Dominican Republic began mass deportations of thousands of Haitians.
We have been informed that the police are the ones carrying out the operations. It is a kind of persecution against black people and against all those who are presumed to be Haitians.
The gang violence and poverty, synonymous with Haiti, are getting worse.
Only last week, in the latest symptomatic horror, gang members entered the neighborhood of Pont-Sondé in the dead of night, setting fire to houses and gunning down residents as they fled. At least 70 people were killed, including 3 small babies.
Struggling to cope with the return of thousands of people, Haiti requested an emergency meeting at the Organization of American States.
Malgré les avancées en matière de droits humains dans notre région,
despite our efforts at dialogue, we report grave violations of the rights of Haitian citizens in the Dominican Republic, Haitians who went there looking for security and better opportunities. The international community agrees this policy of deportation is what it really is, a campaign of discrimination based on nationality and skin colour. It's immoral and reprehensible and in direct violation of fundamental international rights.
The Dominican Republic said on Tuesday it is fulfilling a pledge announced last week to deport people living there illegally. At least 500,000 Haitians live in the Dominican Republic, trying to escape a country in collapse. And a UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police that launched earlier this year is facing a serious lack of funds and manpower. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera.
Our next story is about Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, a base for dozens of armed gangs who even forced their prime minister to resign. Haiti always seems to be in a state of chaos. It's been that way since it became independent, back in 1804. But maybe that's not the country's fault completely. A group of NGOs has gathered in Geneva. They're trying to form an independent commission to help undo a historic justice. They want France to pay a ransom that it took from Haiti back in the 1800s, the price it extracted for Haiti's freedom. How much money does the coalition want France to pay? Anywhere between $150 to $200 billion. Here's our report.
Have you heard of the term war reparations? It's a specific type of payment given by a losing country to the winner of a war. This has always taken place in history. Germany paid this to the victorious Allies after World War II, and after World War I as well. France paid this to Britain after Napoleon was defeated. War reparations are a way for the losing side to pay for the lives lost. This is how it has always been, the business side of war. But what if the roles were reversed? If the winner of a war had to pay the loser, even if the war was justified, if it was the morally right thing to do? We don't have to imagine that scenario. It's what happened to Haiti, and the country has been suffering for 200 years because of this. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. It's a country in the Caribbean Sea. It occupies half of an island, Hispaniola. The other half is a different country, the Dominican Republic, where the people are, on average, 10 times richer than the Haitians. What led to this stark disparity? Simply put, France. Haiti was once a French colony, called Saint-Domingue. France filled it with sugar and coffee plantations, and slaves to work on them. By the year 1789, 90% of the people in Saint-Domingue were slaves, subjected to barbaric cruelty by the French colonizers. So the slaves rose up to break their shackles. They finally won their freedom from the French in 1804, after fighting for over a decade. The people even defeated Napoleon's armada, making a place for themselves in history. But the joy was short-lived. Napoleon was beaten in Europe as well. The French monarchy was restored, and they wanted their colony back. France sent another armada in 1825. 500 cannons were pointed at the now free nation of Haiti, and the French made them an offer at gunship point. Pay 150 million francs for your freedom, or we'll enslave and kill you again. Let's look at a contemporary comparison, the Louisiana Purchase. The US actually purchased much of the present-day South and Midwest from France, back in the year 1804. More than 2 million square kilometers of land, about 77 times the size of Haiti. How much did the US pay France? 80 million francs, or $15 million. 21 years later, France forced Haiti to pay almost double this amount, 150 million francs. Now obviously, Haiti did not have that kind of money, so France made it borrow the money from French bankers. There were banker fees and interest, which meant Haiti was paying off the ransom for 122 years. The final payment was made in 1947, That is when Haiti was free of the French debt. So how much do you think the total debt was worth? Well, that is a question that will be debated by a United Nations group, the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. 20 NGOs have come together. They're asking the forum for justice. They want France to return what it took from Haiti. When you add interest, it may be between $150 to $200 billion. France will deny this, of course. They have only ever acknowledged a moral debt that they owe Haiti, never actual compensation. Haiti is the poorest of its neighbors, brimming with gang violence and a history of impoverishment. The French robbery played a huge part in this mess, and this time, Paris should be the one paying.
Our next story is from Sudan, the other country facing a civil war. With all the attention given to Gaza and Ukraine, the world sometimes forgets about the Sudan, about the war that's been raging on there for over a year, about the 49 million people there, a third of whom face food insecurity. About 5 million of them are on the brink of famine. Disturbing reports have been coming in about people eating whatever they can find to survive, from cats to tree leaves, even soil from the ground. Here's our report.
The children were collecting tree leaves and eating them. They took mango leaves and ate them. My cousins walked next to the school and collected the tree leaves, cooked them and ate them because we didn't know if we would have food for breakfast.
There were people in the neighborhood who ate the cats. Either you die from hunger or find a way.
Mango leaves boiled into a broth. Cats. Sometimes even soil. Moist soil rolled into a ball, swallowed with some water. These are some of the things people have been eating in Sudan. They are doing everything they can to survive as the country stands on the brink of famine. The people of Sudan are caught in the middle of a civil war. On the one side is a military junta. On the other side, a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces. But it looks like neither side is supporting anyone but themselves. The RSF has looted aid shipments. They sell the food aid in the open market, charging exorbitant prices. The Sudanese army is no better.
Sudan has production that is more than it needs, and this is reassuring. This is clear evidence and answer to everyone who's defaming and saying there will be a famine in Sudan. There's no famine in Sudan.
They want the world to believe that everything is fine in Sudan. Never mind the thousands of people dead or millions on the brink of starvation. The junta claims to have it all under control. But the common people relay tales of their hunger. The charity Doctors Without Borders says that a child is dying every 2 hours due to malnutrition. The United Nations says 18 million people in Sudan are facing food insecurity. The world knows how serious the situation is and who is to blame.
Right now, 5 million people in Sudan are on the brink of famine, and tens of millions of people are in desperate need of aid. And yet the warring parties continue to obstruct humanitarian access and aid.
But despite knowing this, it seems the world has no solutions, and things are about to get worse. The month of May is here. It signals the beginning of the lean season, the season between harvests. Food will be in short supply from May to September. This heightens the risk of starvation in Sudan. A report by a Netherlands-based think tank paints a grim picture. It has put out 3 scenarios. It says the best case is that 6% of Sudan's population will face catastrophic hunger. The worst case, 40%. The world needs to do more to prevent this. 20 million people cannot be left to starve. Their plight cannot be ignored, and their conflict cannot remain a forgotten war.
United Nations agencies have warned that famine and disease threaten to cause countless deaths in war-torn Sudan unless emergency action is taken. Malnourishment, crumbling healthcare facilities, and a surge of cholera cases are blighting the population, officials from the World Health Organization, WHO, said on Tuesday, as they underlined the immense challenges faced by aid workers after 18 months of war in the country. Malnourished children and mothers are dying due to lack of access to care, and cholera is spreading in many parts of the country, said WHO's regional director Hanan Balki at a media briefing in Cairo, the capital of neighboring Egypt. Without immediate intervention, famine and disease will claim countless more lives.
Don't forget to follow us for more content.
Burning cars, buildings, and blocked streets. Martinique is trying to make its voice heard in Paris. Taxi drivers have also joined in, forming a convoy.
Today, members of the people have come to strengthen the ranks. We don't just look at the fact that they are taxi drivers, but they demonstrate that no matter what position we have, what job we have, we all have a role to play. Today, they don't want to see the movement weaken, so they too are coming to strengthen the ranks and lend a hand.
These protesters want to see the prices of goods go down to where they are in France. Right now, they are paying almost 30% more for food.
There is a portion of the population who find themselves in extreme poverty. Elderly people who find themselves alone with small pensions, children whose parents are unable to feed them properly, and who are forced to choose between basic consumer products of low quality and high prices. The problem has been on the table for a long time, and it's time for there to be a concrete and long-term solution.
For now, authorities have tried to quell the unrest by imposing a curfew from dusk until dawn. It's set to last until at least Monday. But after the curfew lifts and the smoke clears, Martinique's protesters won't know whether Paris has listened. Wilson Dysard, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has held a phone call with US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris for the first time in weeks. It's understood Iran was top of the agenda. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has also reportedly said the retaliatory strike against Iran will be lethal, precise, and what he called surprising after the country was targeted by Iranian missiles last week. Alistair Bunkle reports from Jerusalem on the significance of the leaders' phone call.
It is the first call that the two have held for a number of weeks. How significant it is in direct relation to Israel's plans to strike Iran, we don't know yet. Normally, in these circumstances, we get a readout from the White House, not normally from Israel's Prime Minister's office. So we'll wait and see whether the White House releases any kind of statement and gives any more detail about the phone call. The Americans, we understand, have been trying to help the Israelis shape what the response is going to be, and they've been trying to walk the Israelis away from any desire to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, an attack on the nuclear facilities would be kind of right at the top end of the scale. I wouldn't rule it out, but I think it's quite difficult for Israel to do for a number of reasons. Iran has buried a lot of its nuclear infrastructure deep in mountains or underground. So we don't know whether the Israelis literally have the weaponry to be able to reach it. We also don't know whether the Israelis actually sort of have the military capability in terms of air-to-air refueling and that kind of stuff to be able to do it. And you would assume that they would probably want and need America to give the green light, because it would then mean that Iran is almost certainly going to respond in a big way to Israel, and Israel would want, as they have done in the past, the Americans to be defending Israel.
Grieving children and dead children.
as Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry now says more than 42,000 people have been killed in this year-long war. An uncle of a young victim asks what a child could have done to deserve this. Another round of deadly Israeli airstrikes hit northern Gaza on Wednesday. The head of the United Nations Relief Agency, Philip Lazzarini, says 400,000 people are trapped there. The UNRWA chief says evacuation orders are forcing people to flee again and again, adding that many people are refusing to leave because no place anywhere in Gaza is safe, echoing the frustrations of UN Chief Antonio Guterres.
There is something fundamentally wrong in the way this war is being conducted.
A displacement crisis in Lebanon too. 1.2 million have had to flee their homes, according to the government. The UN says a quarter of the country's territory is now under Israeli evacuation orders. This man calls it humiliating to be living like this. In southern Lebanon, airstrikes kill more people as Israel continues its campaign against Hezbollah. The Shia militant group also fired into Israel again, killing 2 people in the country's far north. A stabbing attack in another Israeli border city left 6 people injured. The police chief says he will settle the score with those involved in what he called a terrorist attack. And in the occupied West Bank Wednesday, Israeli forces shot and killed a group of men in this car, death sparing no side in this conflict. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida. Monster Category 3 storm slams into Florida's west coast. Powerful storm triggers tornadoes and flooding. Homes destroyed. Vehicles damaged. Dramatic videos caught on camera. Over 2 million without power in Florida. Authorities on high alert. After Hurricane Helene's deadly rampage, Milton caused widespread damage in U.S. A weakening but still tremendously powerful Hurricane Milton slammed into Florida's west coast on the night of October 9th as a Category 3 storm, pushing ahead of it a massive and potentially deadly wall of water from the Gulf of Mexico, as well as catastrophic winds. Several reports claim that the Florida's regions which are still reeling from the destruction caused by Hurricane Helene faced significant damage. According to reports, about 125 homes had already been destroyed by Hurricane Milton by October 9th evening. Several videos showing the damage caused by Milton were shared online. Video of the roof of Tropicana Field being ripped to shreds by Milton's winds was widely shared on social media. The Dome Stadium is reportedly home to Major League Baseball's Tampa Bay Rays and has recently been used as a base camp to support the Florida Department of Emergency Management ahead of the hurricane. According to reports, Milton's sustained winds reduced from 145 miles per hour to 120 miles per hour, bringing it down to a Category 3 hurricane. But reports claim that the storm has grown in size, making its potential damage more widespread. The National Hurricane Center said that Milton weakened to a Category 2 hurricane after coming ashore, but still threatens portions of central Florida with devastating rains and damaging winds. More than 2 million homes and businesses were without power in Florida on October 9th. Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said he hoped the west coast of the state could avoid the worst predicted storm surge. Forecasters said seawater could rise as high as 13 feet. Authorities had warned for days of Milton's deadly potential, ordering an evacuation of millions of people in coastal areas along West Florida's Gulf Coast vulnerable to a predicted storm surge of up to 15 feet. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden said he pre-deployed thousands of federal personnel to areas affected by the storm, including more than 1,000 Coast Guard members. Hurricane Milton is the second storm hit Florida in last 12 days, after Helene's deadly rampage through the Florida's panhandle towards Georgia and the Carolinas beginning on September 27th. The death toll from Helene has risen to at least 232 people across 6 states in U.S. Helene was the second deadliest hurricane to strike the United States mainland in the past 50 years, following Hurricane Katrina, which killed at least over 1,800 people in 2005.
Hours before landfall, Milton spawning a tornado outbreak along Florida's east coast. This twister was spotted over Loxahatchee.
And we've now learned that it has had multiple deaths in St. Lucie County. Local 10's Cody Weddle live now in Wellington with destruction. Cody.
And Calvin and Nicole, residents in this neighborhood tell me they believe a tornado passed right through here at about 6:30 this evening. The folks who live in this home say it passed right through their front yard. You can see how those trees have just been snapped in half. The back of this home is damaged as well. And as you said there, multiple suspected tornadoes tonight, killing multiple people in St. Lucie County. Suspected tornadoes ripping through Palm Beach and Martin counties. Videos show the massive funnel clouds appearing to touch ground. Cars on the highway attempting to outrun the storm. And in St. Lucie County in northern Fort Pierce, multiple suspected tornadoes leading to several deaths. The sheriff there sharing the news on Wednesday evening.
We have lost some life. Search and rescue teams are on their way. Our deputies are out here. The fire district is out here. We're going through the rubble. We're trying to provide recover anybody that we can, provide whatever help that we can.
On the ground in Wellington,
we heard this big noise on the side. You know, it sounds like a train.
The damage left behind already visible. This car tossed into a tree in Wellington.
It felt like it was coming over the roof. It felt like. And so because it was coming lower, I got down really low because I thought it was going to come over me.
A man who lives in this neighborhood showing us some of the damage. Siding ripped off of homes, trees snapped in half, windows smashed in, tree branches left inside the home. Pauline Cornish lives in this home and was inside as the storm passed.
When I went into the laundry room, I heard the noise. And when I looked up at the window in the laundry room, I could see the wind.
Another apparent tornado touching down in Palm Beach Gardens. Trees tossed around onto cars and homes. Residents now assessing the damage, well aware that more severe weather remains in the forecast.
I go back to saying I'm alive, so I'm thankful.
So those deaths in St. Lucie County, they are from the Spanish Lakes Country Club in the Spanish Lakes community. Here in Wellington, the village manager is saying that although there have been injuries, thankfully no fatalities reported in this town. But we have seen authorities, police, ambulances, paramedics patrolling these neighborhoods. Clearly, the process of assessing the damage and the injuries just now getting underway. That's the latest here in Wellington tonight. I'm Cody Weddle, Local 10 News.
ABC 10's Luke Clary is in Florida tonight, reporting for our sister station in Tampa.
Today, he got a close-up look at the storm's intensity as it was making landfall.
I'm standing here in front of the Tropicana Field. This is where the Tampa Bay Rays play, and as you can see, the Trop is now almost entirely without a roof. That polymer compound mostly ripping off and now looking like canvas. I can only see maybe one or two sections there that are still intact. But with every wind gust, you can hear it whipping and cracking, and you can see pieces of it flying off and into the wind. There were a number of crews stationed here earlier in the week, the National Guard and linemen preparing to help out in the aftermath here. We understand local officials have told us that they moved out of here before this damage took hold and that nobody was hurt. The Tampa Bay Rays organization confirming to us that there were no crews inside at the time, which is just so fortunate when you look at all of that damage and you think to yourself, with all of those pieces of polymer coming down onto the stands, coming down onto the field, how easily somebody could have been hurt. In downtown St. Pete, there are downed trees and branches on the roads, and a tower crane collapsed onto a building next to it. St. Pete Fire Department says that nobody was hurt, which is incredibly fortunate when you look at the damage around that building. But for the people across the Tampa Bay area who grew up going to games here, this must be a very difficult thing to see. And as the storm moves out of this area and gradually people are able to come out of their safe spaces and out into the light with the light of day, more and more of the damage that Hurricane Milton has wrought across our area will become more apparent.
ABC 10's Luke Clary reporting for us down in Florida tonight. And here is a live look at Tampa. Just look at this. Governor Gavin Newsom has deployed more than 300 additional personnel to try and help in areas impacted by Milton. But you see the rain still coming down there in Tampa, the high winds.
And finally, the Federal Aviation Administration has sounded an urgent alarm over potential safety risk involving Boeing 737 planes. A critical flaw in the rudder system of certain 737 MAX and next generation models could lead to limited or jammed control during landings. This announcement comes after a February incident where United Airlines flight experienced stuck rudder pedals mid-landing. The issue, which is linked to defective parts, will affect carriers worldwide, including Delta, Alaska Air, Qantas, and Turkish Air. Our final report has more.
The Federal Aviation Administration has issued a safety alert for Boeing 737 planes, warning airlines of a serious potential risk: jammed or limited rudder movement during landing. This is no small issue, as the rudder controls the plane's yaw or nose alignment, which is crucial for safe landings, and the alert is especially concerning for Boeing 737 Next Generation and 737 MAX models. The FAA's action follows an investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board into a scary incident that took place in February. A United Airlines 737 MAX 8, packed with 161 people, experienced stuck rudder pedals while attempting to land at Newark. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but it raised major red flags about rudder control safety in these planes. It turns out the problem lies in a component called the Rudder Rollout Guidance Actuator, manufactured by Collins Aerospace. These parts have a critical flaw, one that affects over 350 actuators delivered to Boeing since 2017. The National Transportation Safety Board discovered that the issue stemmed from an improperly assembled bearing inside the actuator. And now, more than 40 airlines around the world may have these faulty parts in their 737 fleets. In a letter to the FAA, NTSB chief sounded the alarm, expressing concern that some airlines might not even be aware that they have these faulty parts in their planes. India's aviation regulator, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, has also taken notice. On Monday, they issued safety guidelines to Indian carriers, including Air India Express, Akasa Air, and SpiceJet. These airlines, all of which operate Boeing 737s, have been told to assess the risk of faulty rudder controls on their planes. And until further notice, Indian carriers must stop using Category 3B operations, which is an advanced landing system designed for low visibility conditions on affected planes. The concern is that these faulty actuators could pose a danger during complex landings. But the problem with Boeing 737 rudders is a global phenomenon. Some of the top American airlines also have the aircraft in their fleet, including Alaska Airlines, United Airlines, and Delta. In the Americas, Aeromexico and Copa Airlines also have the faulty 737. In Europe, Icelandair and Turkish Airlines have the 737 in their fleets. And in Asia, Fly Dubai and Thai Lion Air also have these planes. However, almost all these airlines have grounded the 737 jet since January this year, following several incidents involving the 737 series. United Airlines has already taken action, removing the defective parts from 9 of its 737s earlier this year. But the NTSB has criticized Boeing for not informing United sooner that the planes they had received from other airlines were equipped with these faulty actuators. The board fears there could be other airlines still flying unaware of this hidden danger. The FAA plans to issue a formal warning to international aviation agencies, but the world's airlines are on high alert. This is a developing story, but one thing is clear: everybody is working to avoid a crisis in the sky.
First Post decodes the U.S. election. Explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on First Post.
Concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered to him, we ask you, brothers and sisters, not to become easily unsettled or alarmed by the teaching allegedly from us, whether by a prophecy or by word of mouth or by letter, asserting that the day of the Lord has already come. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God. Don't you remember that when I was with you I used to tell you these things? And now you know what is holding him back, so that he may be revealed at the proper time. For the secret power of lawlessness is already at work, but the one who now holds it back will continue to do so till he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will overthrow with the breath of his mouth and destroy by the splendor of his coming. The coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. He will use all sorts of displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie, and all the ways that wickedness deceives those who are perishing. They perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. For this reason, God sends them a powerful delusion, so that they will believe the lie, and so that all will be condemned who have not believed the truth, but have delighted in wickedness. But we ought always to thank God for you, brothers and sisters, loved by the Lord, because God chose you as first fruits to be saved through the sanctifying work of the Spirit and through belief in the truth. He called you to this through our gospel, that you might share in the glory of our Lord Jesus Christ. So then, brothers and sisters, stand firm and hold fast to the teachings we passed on to you, whether by word of mouth or by letter. May our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us and by his grace gave us eternal encouragement and good hope, encourage your hearts and strengthen you in every good deed and word.